With the slander that Deion Sanders is receiving, it's obvious that there's a disconnect between him and the Colorado legends of the past, and I'll explain why.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. So thank you for making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about why I think Christian Fauria's comments show a major disconnect between Coach Prime and the Colorado legends of the past, and why I think it'd probably be better for everyone if there was some sort of middle ground found, if possible. I'll explain that later. We're going to talk about Colorado's scariest stretch of their 2026 season, because I think they have one of the tougher schedules in college football. And then Tad Boyle said that Colorado wasted their money on this year's roster, and I'm here to tell you, Tad Boyle, I think Colorado wasted their money on you, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So for those of you that don't know, there was a podcast the other day, the Zach Jelp Show on 365 Sports, and Christian Fauria, former Colorado legend, he was on the national championship team, he was an All-American tight end. He goes on the show and he says, I'm just not a fan of Coach. I'll never be a fan of the coach. He said, I love the school, and this isn't me picking on Deion Sanders because I pick on Joe Gibbs. The worst coach I've ever had was Joe Gibbs. So my picking on Deion Sanders is nothing. I just don't like the way he coaches football. I don't think he's very bright. I don't think he can manage a game. I think there's a lot of flash, but I think there's no substance. And he's got a lot of people like brainwashed. And, we'll see. We'll see what he could do, but I'm just not a fan of him. Not a fan of his coaching style. Not a fan of his messaging. There's a lot of things internally that I know. There's a lot of things internally that I know I'm not a fan about, and it's just not worth my energy to sit there and follow it. And and then go back and forth with the Emperor has no closed crowd that support him regardless of how stupid he is. So yeah, that's just the way I feel about it. And it bugs me that a lot of alumni just don't speak up about it. They don't say anything, but I will. And I hear this message, and I hear some of the messaging that I've heard from other notable alumni around the program, right? I mean, and this is probably the most extreme, and I don't want to lump anybody in here with Christian, because I feel like he took it a step too far. He got really personal, and I think there's a lot of how his son's time in Boulder went over that is influencing or fueling this message. That being said, you really have to look at this and go, okay, why is there such a disconnect? And I mean, Chad Brown came on my show a while back, and he said Coach Prime hasn't really made any efforts to include guys of the past. And Coach Prime, he hasn't really addressed it head on, but for the most part, I think he has also seen a lot of these comments. And I think we just need to understand a couple of things. Coach Prime had to change this Colorado culture. That is without a doubt the truest statement that could ever be said. He came in, he said the luggage was Louis. He said he was going to win games. He said they were going to contend. He said that all this and that, and people needed to believe. And I think a lot of people took that and were like, why do we have to do it now? Why couldn't we have done it before? And it's like, well, he's inheriting a program that was 1-11, pretty much one of the most irrelevant programs in college football. And quite frankly, there was little to no support from the alumni in that sense. Like, I think the alumni cared about the program, but they weren't throwing money at it to figure the problems out. No, they were not. Right. And so Coach Prime comes into a program where he's trying to build it off of the back of his brand and attract a new caliber of players that Colorado hasn't had, quite frankly, in about a decade. And to do that, as I sip my water, you got to ruffle some feathers. Right? Coach Prime has put in so much effort to building this Colorado program up, and he's had to do it in an unconventional way, because guess what? Colorado is not going to outspend BYU. He's not going to outspend Texas Tech, right? They don't have the history that a program like USC, who was struggling, or an Oregon who is not struggling, but they just have the brand, right? He doesn't have the brand or the resources there. So he doesn't have resources, doesn't have the brand power. He doesn't have the recent success, right? He's not like, even Stanford has had more recent success than Colorado, right? So you just look at what he's working against and you understand that he had to do things a little bit differently. Now, could Coach Prime possibly include the alumni more? Maybe, right? But again, that's sort of his prerogative. If he doesn't want other guys around the program that he doesn't think bring value to the program, that's his choice. And unfortunately, and I think a lot of people are going to hold on to that and be like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? It happens all over the country, right? Doesn't mean it's right, but a lot of coaches aren't always wanting the alumni around, because that's also bringing in the back in my day crowd, right? Brian Kelly didn't have LSU guys around. He didn't. Tom Herman didn't have Texas guys around. I think it was Tom Herman. Didn't have a lot of Texas guys around, right? There's a lot of programs out there who don't necessarily want to open the doors to guys of the past, because those guys often bring back this is how we did things. This is a new era. I don't know about that, right? So you don't want to have to deal with that all the time. And two, another thing that he's sort of, I guess, strayed away from is the tradition, right? I think Colorado is very rich in tradition. They have the fight song. They have Ralphie. They have a lot of things, really. They're one of the more tradition-rich programs in college football. But you're bringing in, I don't want to say an outsider, because I'm not trying to say Coach Prime is an outsider who doesn't understand traditions, but you're bringing in a guy who has no previous ties to the program, and he's trying to make it his own so that way he could get it to a level that the program hasn't really been at. And so at the same time, you're going to sacrifice said traditions. And I think that rubs some people the wrong way. I think Christian Fauria is probably one of them. I think the fight song crowd is another one where it's like, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? But all of this messaging and guys around the program saying, oh, I just don't really appreciate how he's running the program right now, it just shows me that there's a disconnect. And I think there's sort of an internal war of the past versus the present. And for those who care about Colorado, whether it's the guys who played there, the guys who are coaching there right now, or the players who are currently playing there, if you care about the program at all, you need to understand that things are changing and you need to come together, right? Continually dividing the fan base and being like, yeah, do you think Coach Prime knows what he's doing? Or yeah, why do all the OG buffs hate what he's doing? That's not going to get you anywhere, right? A divided program is a bad look from the inside, from the outside, right? Recruits notice like, hey, fan base is kind of toxic. I don't know if I want to go there. Coaches notice like, hey, there's this weird energy around the program. Why would I want to go work there, right? So if anything, making comments like these and sort of going at your head coach who has done magic for a program that was in the depths of hell of college football is interesting, right? He's generating money for the program, which will help it move in the right direction. He is generating interest in the school, diversity in the school. He's boosting the local economy, right? He is doing so much more for the program. And I think the football results need to improve. I don't disagree there. I think his game management can improve, but the personal attacks show me that there's frustrations beyond just X's and O's, right? It shows me that like, hey, my son didn't get to play here and I'm kind of upset about that. And he was probably shown the door and I'm upset about that. Or some of his friends were shown the door and I'm upset about that. Or back in my day in the 90s when we were winning, we did this and you're not doing that anymore. And this isn't the program that I knew. And it's like all fair. And if those are your opinions, say that. Don't be vague about it and just attack him, because that does nothing. So Colorado is currently experiencing a war, if you will, between the past and the present. And the only way to unite is for people to understand that things are different now. But I would say Coach Prime has has Colorado's best interest in mind. Whether people want to admit that or not, I think he does. So you just need to both sides need to come to that realization. And the Coach Prime needs to come to the realization that people care so deeply about this program. They always have, they always will. Because, I mean, Coach Prime's not going to be here forever. He's going to retire one day, and hopefully it's on his terms. But you have to understand that everybody wants the same thing. It's just a matter of, can we be a cohesive group, or are we just going to be the one side that supports the program not the coach, and then the other side that supports the coach and hates what was of the program. So that's my take on the matter. When we come back, we're going to look at the schedule. I'm going to tell you what scares me about Colorado's 2026 schedule. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Mazda. If you guys didn't know, Mazda's moving the game forward, and it's for those who show there's more to the score. There's more than what's on the screen. This week, I'm going to highlight Coach Prime because I feel like he's handled this situation with grace. I think he could have easily got personal back, and he did not. So I'm going to give him the Mazda be moved player or moment of the week. It's the extra work off the court, off the field, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, the grit that I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the real. What it took to get there makes it count, because there's more to a Mazda, because there's more to you. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with the NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. You get flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. I love futures this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds the extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get it entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's talk Colorado's 2026 football schedule. I just did an episode or a crossover with Locked on College Football, Spencer McLaughlin, and we were just sort of talking about how scary this schedule could be. And, I mean, it's difficult, right? I don't know if Colorado – let's see if ESPN FPI has the schedule rankings already. But – if you look at this schedule, I think Colorado is probably going to have a top 25 at a minimum most difficult schedule in college football, right? You look at their first 4 games, they're on the road for 3 of them. All three of them, I mean, as expected, I guess in this case, are Power 4 programs, right? You then play the entirety of the top of the Big 12, right? You have Texas Tech coming to Boulder. You have Utah coming to Boulder. You have Kansas State at Arizona State. You have a pretty good looking Oklahoma State team. So I look up and down the schedule. I'm like, what is the scariest, I guess, month, if you will, right? And look no further. And I think I said this last year. And maybe last year I didn't. I don't know. I think last year we focused on those final few weeks, but this year I'm looking at the schedule and I can't help but think Colorado's month of September will make or break their season. You're probably going, oh, shocker. The first 4 games are important. Wow. Profound. I know. Bear with me. But you just look at how quickly Colorado's seasons have fallen off the rails when they've fallen off the rails under Coach Prime, right? Year 1, they start 3-0, and it was like, great. And then all of a sudden, they start losing. This past year, we knew pretty much after the first month that Colorado was going to be a struggling team, right? You lose against Georgia Tech. You beat Delaware, but it was ugly. You lose against Houston in an ugly fashion. And then the losses just keep piling up. And so I think a strong start, I don't want to say heals all, but a strong start sort of gets you going and makes the rest of the season a little bit less scary. And if Colorado gets off to a strong start anyway, I think we're looking at a top 25 team, because you have at Georgia Tech. Now, they're losing their offensive coordinator. They're losing their quarterback. They are losing a handful of key position players. They're going to have Alberto Mendoza, which is the little brother of Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. He's going to be the new quarterback. You have a new offensive coordinator. That being said, you still have Brent Key. So the team's still going to be tough, physical. They're still going to try to run the ball down your throats. They got a really good, I would say, transfer portal class. I would say it's impressive, honestly. And again, you're on the road. So you have Julian Lewis, who he already got his stripes a little bit. He made his first career start on the road in Morgantown at West Virginia. But this is different, right? New offense, new expectations, new sort of year. This is now the Julian Lewis era. It's not just the, hey, we want to see what Juju could do. This is the, hey, be the solution to the disaster that was Caden Salter. So you have at Georgia Tech. I think that's a very winnable game. I think there's a lot more questions around Georgia Tech than there is Colorado. We'll have to wait and see when we get there. Then you get Weber State at home, which is, I mean, that should be a 50-point win, depending on, and not even depending on what happens at Georgia Tech. You should beat them by 50 and really get the offense confident, really get the defense confident. Then you hit the road again. Now, weather won't be an issue. I mean, it may be a little humid, but it's not going to be ice cold like some of these other games played at Northwestern. But Northwestern and Evanston, which is on the lake, they have Chip Kelly, who, I mean, the last time he was calling plays at the college level, won a championship. You have Aiden Childs, who is a former blue chip quarterback that I don't think we saw the best of him at Michigan State, but he still has some potential. And you have a Northwestern team that was a bowl team this past year, right? They're looking to take that next step. They're looking to contend. And again, it's on the road. Now, they probably don't have a home field advantage that's worth writing home about. But again, you're not in the comfort of your own home. So that could be difficult. That could be a difficult game there. Then you go to Baylor, right? You go to the house that Chip and Joe built, right? You go to the house that RG3 built in Waco. And Dave Aranda's coaching for his job. Weird guy, Dave Aranda, but he's coaching for his job. You have DJ Lagway, who is kind of fighting for his career, I guess you could say. Like DJ Lagway is looking like a bust thanks to his time at Florida, right? Injured all the time, turnover prone. But hey, this Baylor team, not too bad of a transfer portal class. They got some nice pieces. But again, can you go on the road, beat a quality Big 12 team that's probably going to be in the middle of the pack or upper echelon of the Big 12? Can you beat them, right? Baylor still has a sour taste in their mouth from last year where you beat them on a Hail Mary. They don't feel like they should have lost that game. They did, but they don't feel like they should have. So that first 4-game stretch, tough. And then just going into the first week of October and before the first bye, you have a projected top 10 team in Texas Tech who they landed one of the I would say he's probably the number 5 transfer portal player overall, if I'm remembering correctly, Brendan Sorsby. I think he's number 2 at 24/7. I'll go check that after. He's a top 5 quarterback in the portal. I knew that. Dual threat guy. He's going to test Colorado. They have a lot of really good weapons around him. They rebuilt that defensive line. They spent a lot of money on it again. They have that oil money. So worst case scenario, your first 5 games, you have 1 win and you're sitting there at 1-4 going on a stretch where you play Utah, at OK State, against Kansas State, at ASU, against Houston, where I'm looking at that schedule right now and I see 2 games where I'd be like, that's a win. And for me, that's Oklahoma State and Kansas State. The other ones, I expect Utah to be a top 25 team. I expect Arizona State to be a top 25 team. And I expect Houston to be a top 25 team, or at least in that mix. So you have a tough stretch. You need to get off to a hot start so that way you don't, I guess, fizzle before you even get going. So I think this is a first month and a week will define Colorado's season, right? Can they make the adjustments on offense? Did they bring in the right pieces on defense? I think we're going to get those questions answered really quickly. Now, I think they did, but there's obviously, you have to play, right? Hypotheticals and predictions, they only get you so far. They don't get you very far in the win column, so we'll just have to wait and see. When we come back, Tad Boyle said that Colorado wasted their money. I think they wasted their money on not someone who he's talking about, but we'll get there. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time finding actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. It gives you less stress and less of the time with more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, there is a job. That is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show, you could get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Tad Boyle is in his feelings, and I think Tad Boyle feels the seat getting hot. After Colorado was blasted by Texas Tech last week, they lost 78-44. They were outscored by nearly 20 points in both halves. Tad Boyle said he was embarrassed, but he also said something that really he said he's embarrassed for everyone that's ever worn the uniform, but he said, quote, "We deserve to be on a 6 a.m. flight out of Lubbock, commercial, Southwest, whatever airline you choose. We don't deserve a charter flight back to Boulder tonight. We got one. We paid for one, but we wasted our money. We waste our university's money. That's on me. So I'll take the ownership of this because I'm the head coach. The buck stops with me, but I'm embarrassed. I've not said I'm embarrassed very often, but I'm embarrassed tonight." Now, Tad Boyle is, without saying it, he's saying that this team is embarrassing. There's roster, this performance is embarrassing. And I get it. It's not how you want it to go. I think he feels the pressure as a coach, but you have to look at who built this roster. And that would be you, Mr. Boyle, sir. You built this roster. Who is picking the rotations? Who is running the offense? That would be you, Mr. Boyle, sir. Tad Boyle is a coach who I think can feel the walls caving in. There's a new AD, and I think he's sort of getting a little bit dramatic to sort of point the finger at someone else. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's going to end very well for his time in Boulder, right? Tad Boyle, I mean, let's just look at what Colorado's done over the past couple of years, right? Not much, right? They have, I think Tad Boyle has been at the helm since the 2010-2011 season, made the tournament 4 years in a row, which was huge because Colorado hadn't made the tournament. They made the tournament, let's see, 3 times since 1965. And so he made it 4 times in 5 years, in his first 5 years. And then they go on a little bit of a drought, right? They don't make the tournament again until 2020, 2021. And they make the tournament in 23, 24, win a game, go to the second round, they get bounced again. They've never made it past, they made it past one time with Tad Boyle, made it past the second round one time. So, and then this past few years, you have 14-21 last year, 14-12 this year. And I don't feel like they're trending for an NCAA tournament bid. So I think Tad Boyle, it's getting stale. He's getting dramatic. He's sort of apologizing already. I think trying to rally the program around him. I don't know if it's going to work. I think Colorado would be better off making a change. I don't know what the right change is because, again, there's going to be a lot of jobs open. But you kind of want to have – I'd rather have the Colorado job open with a job like Kansas State compared to a job like Kentucky, right? Because maybe you go out and get a mid-major riser who wants to take that next step and there isn't a blue blood job open, right? That's sort of where you at. You have to time it right. You could also ride with Tad and be like, okay, let's see what he could do next year with more resources. But I feel like the investment from the donors is drying up, and as is the support. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Tad Boyle's embarrassed. Shiver me timbers. I don't know what to say. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope all of you have a great and safe evening. This has been Locked On Buffs.